Okay, glad that I have Victoria with me and Samarat online. As I uh, announced, today we will uh, sit back a little bit and then cool down because we have to crank in next class, heavy uh, the codings. So, and also this is the right time that we need to consider framework of the mobile application developments. So today's so lots of things that I listed on this slide. Simply, the module for today's lecture gives you a whole picture of, not whole yet, this is not complete either, somehow framework, so you can think of, you can answer if you have questions. The development framework, there are two major types of mobile devices, Android and iPhone. So two different languages are used, although there is some common language keep developed, keep yeah, being developed to make one development for two different devices, Android and iPhones, but not complete at all. Probably not even in the future. As far as there is some user interfaces, the user interface widgets are not really developed from the common agreement between Apple and Google or some other, maybe Samsung. There's no agreement. Then, is it possible for anybody to develop the language? So language may be able to cover both of those by having one code. In theory, not impossible. In practicality, maybe lots of issues. Once it is completely developed, what if tomorrow, for example, Apple change a little bit and Google change it in another way? Then that is completely messed up again. So although currently this, one language may be able to give you some of the skeletons, some of the templates. So, but you have to complete it on your own, the language that you can do. For example, for Android apps, then maybe foundation language is Java. You could do for Java. For iPhone, maybe Objective-C or Swift languages. That type of things is required. So we'll look at those three things, and then testing mechanisms and maintenance and updates. This is always the issues, right? And marketing and user acquisitions. This is not really related to our disciplines, right? We are more working on more on technical side, tech side, rather than business marketing side. And then analysis we look at some of the metrics so that we can analyze the apps. So I know you can read this, well, as ideally if I have all students with me in class, then I can make a groups of students and then ask them to study among the group and discuss among themselves, and then each group may make a little bit of the presentation of their lessons and some of the comments and critiques, and that type of things is possible. This type of course materials, but unfortunately, not even so. At least if Samrat is with us, like last class, then Victoria and Samrat make discussions. Okay, I don't know where other students now. I open the Zoom. Usually I open the Zoom first a few minutes. This time Samrat joined, so I opened this. Okay, let's look at, so we'll do this quick, okay? We can stay on one slide longer and longer, maybe 2 hours or 3 hours. Some instructor may say much, and I know some of the instructors, maybe they love to talk, and they talk a lot. And at the end, if I want to summarize, there's nothing that I can summarize. But we spend hours and hours. I'm not that type of person. I'm more like tech oriented. If there is no meats, then I don't think I learned, right? I need some meats, some, not only soup, but meats. Not water only, not the juice. Okay, so for the, this is somehow the procedures of the web developments. When we want to, this help you for your the semester project as well. So you have to define the objective first. What is the goal of your apps? Probably this, I need to ask you to submit the proposals, project proposal. I want to make a notes here. Project proposal. I need to request the project proposals. That is one of the milestones that you can follow. So around this time, I think you need to set up what you want to do. So clearly, you need to define the purpose and the goals of your mobile applications. Okay, clear, right? That statement is very clear. Identify the target audience. That also needed. Don't make your mobile app for general audience. General audience, then you may think you can sell widely. Maybe true, but not always. If it is very general, then there is some other groups, they want to go deeper in more details, more technical. So they don't like your app, right? So it depends. So target audience needs to be identified and determine what problem or need your app will address. So clearly you have to say about this for your project proposal as well. And platform selection. In your case, there's no choice, okay? We set up already here, iOS. And all course materials stick to this. It doesn't mean that knowing this skill sets is impossible to do others. No, you can do others, okay? Understanding the framework of development framework of on a specific target device, that concept, pretty much of the concepts that you experienced for one device may be able to apply it to another device. That's from my understanding. As I said, I had taught Android apps developments probably 6 semesters, early 2010. At that time, yeah, most students knows Java. And then in the mid 2010, I think iPhone was dominant at least in America, in our country. So why should I teach Android apps? At least for young generations, students most of the students hold iPhones. So I chose iPhones. Sketching and wireframing sketch. So I think up to these points, you have to describe for your, I think more than that. I think this is also background developments, maybe, no, not. I think up to this, you have to describe on your project proposals. Sketch, create rough sketch or wireframes of your app screens and the interface, user interface. If you see the iPhone apps from your experience, then there's a lot of views. Views are related back and forth, so that if you click one, then it leads to another view, from there another view, and then you can come back to the original, the home views. So view is like a screen. So you have multiple screens somehow related. One enacts another, and back and forth. So that type of things needs to be, those frames are a little bit of wire frames or sketch. So this view, you want to display something, and then logics behind this view is these things. And if you, and there is some of the activative UI widgets, maybe buttons, or some of lots of the widgets available. So for simplicity, for example, button. If you click this button, then it goes to the view one. If you click another button, then goes to another views. That type of things needs to be drawn. So this slide, I explained 3 little details. Like if I go to next slide, then the first 3 items already done. So this is a little dim. And then on this slide, we are looking at the next 3 items, bullet points. So design UI UX. So user interface and user experience of your applications, probably user experience needs to be improved. Not only user interface, because we have now artificial intelligence capabilities embedded. So rather than entering, for example, if you want to send your money to your friend, like Zelle. Zelle you clicked. So when you click the Zelle, then Zelle do not ask you all detailed private informations from the beginning. It asks, you can, right now, a little bit of tightly controlled Zelle, money transfer over Zelle. But initially, if you give your email or phone number, then you can find out their bank and bank accounts and send the money very easily, very convenient. But now, still depends on the bank. For example, Chase, then it asks you enter a lot more. Why you send this money, for example? That bothers me. There's a little reverse, a little bit in the reverse directions. It doesn't help. It doesn't improve, but it asks me to enter more and more. But sometimes, without having to say much, if I say only $30, then it goes to my friend. So we had lunch together yesterday, and I went to pay back to my friend. If my app, my iPhone, my mobile devices understands where I was yesterday, and somehow with whom, and somehow, and I don't know if it is really intelligent. I don't like that environment, but if AI technologies improves a lot, then it may. I have my mobile phones. My friend has a mobile phones. Somehow, if I have lunch with that person, then somehow it identifies. Oh, this guy have lunch with that guy, and then somehow that understands all the situations like where human can mutually understands, and therefore it understands that guy pays by his phone the wallets, and I didn't pay, therefore that guy understands. Is that treat or divide? Mm-hmm. And therefore that type of things. Experience. Is it legal or illegal, or is it something that we all admit? I don't know, but technically it could be possible. That type of things, if you can add into your proposals, that'll be great. Finally, you succeed or not, that is a different story, right? I'm not going to, when I grade the project, if somebody's project is very tedious and very, although it is complete, it is functioning very well, but nothing really impressive, nothing really interesting, then if I compare that type of a project with some others, it has a still bug, incomplete, but tried to do something in the new directions, then I rather prefer to that type of project. That is what I ask you to do. Our students need to go move forward rather than stay in the yesterday's technologies. I want them to go for tomorrow's technologies. Back-end developments, there is a back-end infrastructures, right? It could be maybe in cloud or even on your iPhone, there is a database running, so we could use that. Most of the the minimum capabilities of database already built in. And the question that I want to ask, which database is the most widely, dominantly used in the world? Is it Oracle? Is it MySQL? Or is it SQLite? It is a SQLite. Have you used the SQLite? Maybe, maybe not. SQLite is anywhere where there is a Linux operating systems running. Anywhere. We'll look at that. Your iPhone has already. You don't need to install. It's already there. SQLite, it is only on your iPhone? No, it is also available on Android phones. Is it also available on, for example, in Raspberry Pi, like microcontroller? Yes, it is there also. Where there is a Linux, then there is these days Python, where there is also SQLite. Python optional, but SQLite always. Is it real full DBMS? No, it is not full DBMS. It's like a one module. That module that we can issue SQL. It is a secure? Of course, it is not secure, but it is handy. It is a built-in. It is embedded in your the small device. If you have a smart refrigerator at home, it has also SQLite and Linux. So we'll look at that. So database could be on your device. Database could be in the remotely available, like a cloud. Then from that database, you will see the API. According to the API, you can receive and return the values, some of the data, and the front end development. So this is the back end developments. Front end, there's most likely screens, UI, some of the interactions. So we'll look at Swift and Swift UI, and Java and Kotlin, that is for Android. Okay, API interface integration, testing and development, distributions. It's more, up to this. That is what we need to do, right? Up to this deployments. Integrate a third-party APIs and services of your app requires, like social media, login and payment gateway, mapping services, push notifications, more and more. That's for API. Testing. Perform comprehensive testing to identify and fix bugs, usability issues. So testing is very, very important, although we don't do here, right? Only simple manual testing. But if you want to commercialize it, testing, there should be a team fully focusing on testing. So various different user groups needs to test your app. Some of the user groups may have different technical backgrounds. So your app should not assume any a priori knowledges in tech. That type of things. Deployment and distributions. For iPhones, Mac App Store, for Google Play Store, so you have to register yours there. Maintenance and updates. These days, this is another the points that we are worrying about, and we need to take care of, because updates, it is like a supply chains, like food. Then we understand the supply chains, right? From the farmer side to the grocery stores, lots of long chains of supply involves. In a software, supply chain is not just only from developer to the consumer, but also different versions. So I have a version 1, but version 2 released, that's available for the device that I have without having to buy new device. I want to have the new software deployed on my device. So there are there's the horizontal supply chain and the vertical supply chains, all possible, that needs to be considered. Marketing and user acquisitions and analytics and integrations, all those things, if you are interested in, then you can take a look at that. But I want to move on. And next few slides about Android application development platforms. So it uses Android Studio, that is for the IDE, and programming languages, either Java or Kotlin. And there is a Android SDK, software development kit, that's already there. And then Android app bundles. So Android app bundle is the recommended publishing format for Android apps on the Google Play Store. And then Google Play services. So Google Play Services is a set of pre-packed API and services provided by Google for Android apps. So it is a functionalities like Google Maps integration, Firebase for the database, and the Google sign-in, in-app purchase, push notification through Firebase cloud messaging, and more. Integrating with the Google Play service can enhance the functionalities and user interfaces of your Android apps. I believe in the next few years, more about user experience, where there is AI involved. Okay. For AI embed capabilities wise, Google may lead, and Mac iPhone a little bit behind, right? Google AI is advanced than Apple AI. Apple is a little behind, so maybe further behind in the future because of that AI functionalities not really seriously developed at the Apple side. But Google, they have their own Gemini and everything's possible. So we'll see how the market share changes. But so far, iPhone's okay. I mean, good. Better than Android. Next year, I do not know. 3 years from now, probably changes. Because Google put their investment on AI. Apple, I do not know why, but they gave up. For example, Apple Car. If they do Apple Car like Tesla, then they probably already built up some of the AI capabilities. But they didn't go that way. iPhones. We use Xcode and Swift. Objective-C, that is on the line. iOS SDK, that's available. So let's take a look. Collection of the tools, so frameworks, API provided by Apple for iOS app development. It includes libraries for the interface development, user interface development, UI, access to device features like camera and sensors, networking capabilities, data management, and more. Interface builder. As you code, you may be able to see some of the modules and class names that starts with IB. That's interface builder. That is a visual tool integrated into Xcode that allows you to design and then lay out your app's user interface using drag and drop interfaces. It provides a visual representation of app screen, views, controls, making it easier to create visually appealing interface. App Store connects. This is something your marketing and deployments. Apple developer programs to distribute your iOS app on the App Store. You will need to enroll a Apple developer programs. I am enrolled in there for many years. This program provides access to resource, documentation, beta testing tools, and app distribution capabilities. So put them together in one development. For example, Kotlin multi-platform development, KAM, that is also available. Reactive native framework that requires JavaScript, that also possible. Flutter, so more coding sharings. So this, the video clips explained some of those. So I want to all together watch these video clips. Okay, probably this. Does this work?
Native frameworks. Native means building apps specifically for one platform. For iOS, developers use Swift, and for Android, they use Kotlin. These are the official languages supported by Apple and Google, so you get full control and top performance. Native apps feel faster, smoother, and handle animations perfectly. That's why big apps like Instagram, TikTok, and Snapchat all use native development. They need that flawless experience. But here's the catch. You'll have to build two separate apps if you want both Android and iOS versions. Twice the work, twice the maintenance. If you're a solo dev or a small team, that can be a lot. React Native. Created by Facebook, React Native uses JavaScript to build apps for both Android and iOS. The idea is simple. One code base that works on two platforms. It's powered by the React library, which is used for web. But instead of web elements, it renders real native components. That means your app feels like a native app, not a web page in disguise. The community is huge. Libraries for animations, APIs, icons, everything you can think of. Many big names like Facebook, Tesla, and Instagram all use it. It's fast and efficient for most apps, but when you go heavy on animations or native features, performance can need some optimization. Still, it's one of the most flexible options out there. Flutter. Google's answer to React Native, Flutter uses Dart language. What makes Flutter different is that it doesn't rely on native UI components. It draws everything on screen by itself, using its own rendering engine. That means your app looks exactly the same on Android, iOS, web, and even desktop. Smooth animations, high performance, and consistent design, all from one code base. It's used by brands like Google Pay, eBay, and BMW. The only downside is app size. Flutter apps are usually larger, and Dart might take a bit of getting used to, but once you do, it's one of the most enjoyable frameworks to code in. Xamarin. Made by Microsoft, Xamarin uses C# and .NET to build mobile apps. It's a great fit if you're already working in the Microsoft ecosystem. You can share code between Android and iOS, and it compiles down to native binaries, meaning the apps perform pretty well. Many enterprise-level companies still use it because it's stable and well-supported. However, it's not as trendy today. Flutter and React Native have kind of taken the spotlight, especially for startups and new projects. Ionic. Now, if you're a web developer, this one's your comfort zone. Ionic uses HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, the same stuff you use for websites. You can combine it with frameworks like Angular, React, or Vue. It runs inside a web view, meaning it's like a web app packaged to behave like a mobile app. That makes it super quick to build and test. It's perfect for simpler apps, admin dashboards, or prototypes. But it's not ideal for animation-heavy or performance-demanding apps. If you need speed and complex visuals, you might want something else. NativeScript. NativeScript lets you build truly native apps using JavaScript, TypeScript, Angular, or Vue. Unlike Ionic, it doesn't rely on a web view. It talks directly to native APIs, so performance is close to native development. It's a very developer-friendly tool if you already know web tech but want to go native. The only issue is that its community isn't as large as Flutter or React Native, so finding support or tutorials might take a bit more effort. Kotlin Multi-Platform Mobile. This one's new, but clever. KMM lets you share your business logic, things like networking, database, or authentication, between Android and iOS, but still design your UI separately on each side. That means you get the benefit of shared logic and still keep a native user experience. It's efficient, modern, and especially useful for teams already using Kotlin. The setup can be a bit technical, but it's a strong direction for future mobile development.
All right.
Native frameworks. Native means building apps specifically.
How can I go to next slide? Okay. Testing. Manual testing, automated testing, user feedback. Considering those. And actually, there's a unit testing, the small component needs to be tested. And then functional testing. Perform functional testing to validate the behavior of your app's feature and workflows. Create test case. This is, well, if you are working on as a solo developer, then test cases may not be ready. So, which means there's a potential risk if you want to release that, right? Because you do not have enough customers. So it simulates user interactions, because that testing team has various different user groups available, and verify that the app behave as expected. So there is a tool like Xcode test, XC test, can be used for functional testing as well, living UI testing to automate interaction with the app's user interface. So XC test. Performance test. This is somehow related with the hardware and also network. To assess the performance of your app under different conditions such as high user load, limited network connectivities, that's if some apps developed for corporate usages, like, hey, our company, we have one building where there are 500 employees working, and we provide apps deployed on maybe on the phones owned by that corporate or owned by individual. Anyway, app is running there. Then app needs to be tightly and privately, securely controlled by that corporate. So anything worked on that iPhone, I mean the mobile phones, shouldn't be leaked, shouldn't be compromised by the external attackers, and also internal attackers. So that is a limited network. Sometimes a limited network connectivity is necessary. So inside, while the employees is inside the building, then that particular app enables full network connection. Soon as that employees moves out from that building and go away further and further, then network connectivity needs to be reduced or restricted completely. That's something that we need to consider when we develop. Many years ago, maybe about 10 years ago, yeah, we invited three scientists from NSA, National Security Agencies, to Mercy Universities, and then they introduced the NSA policies, and the employees has a laptop or desktop computers in that NSA campus, and also employees carries their own smartphones. Once, and also some employees receives a smartphone from NSA. So maybe they have two different smartphones. So when they enter that building, personal smartphone is deactivated automatically, and their the government-owned smartphone is automatically reactivated. And when they leave the building, in the other way. That type of things possible. And also compatibility testing. This is always the issue, right? Back to the supply chains, software supply chains. Then somehow there is a compatibility enabled or disabled. If there is along their development life cycles, at some points they have a big milestones. So anything developed beyond that milestone, they don't worry. They do not provide any compatibilities with the devices previously developed. So there is some milestones, but within that milestones, then they need to be compatible. For example, version 1 to 7, there is a one block, and version 7 to 10, there's another block, and 7 there's a milestone, and 10 there's another milestones. But so the version 7, versions 8, 9, 10, among those 4 versions, they should be compatible. That type of things needs to be done. And the usability testing, localization and internationalization testing. This is a must, right? Because you're not going to develop the iPhones only in America. It should be in anywhere. Beta testing, crash and error reporting. While they do beta testing, they usually. I had one experience from Apple many years ago in the beta testing. Then they provide me the phone a few months earlier, their announcements, their official release. Then we can use that, and then yeah, if there is some issue, then we need to report everything's. The more reports they receive, then they have a more appreciation. Therefore, they can improve their capabilities and functionalities, and also performance. That type of things needs to be done. But now I think they well settled down. Not much. They already know. They have their own. The experience and their own know-how. So some of the issues that may come from the customer side are already fully considered. So not much going that way now. Accessibility testing. For the disabilities. your phone has some of the settings for accessibilities, right? Security testing. User authentication. Is it secure? And also more secure. And user access, the security testing is more important because there is ecosystems built. If you have MacBooks, then you have iPhones, and you have Apple Watch, right? Whole ecosystems, and you have pencils, AirPod, and also iCloud. So iCloud is a hub, connecting among themselves. But I need to report back to the Apple. But I didn't have enough time. The thing is this. Because of the ecosystems, when I try to access iCloud wants to verify from the second device, but I already terminate the second device. No longer. So that kind of things are always possible, right? So human needs to be involved. So I need to make a call, and then get some the tech support guys at Apple needs to be involved, and to resolve that issues. But ecosystems, if I have well stabilized devices, component devices are available, then it is perfectly working very well. But if some of them are terminated, some of them are upgraded, then ecosystems needs to be re-established. That re-establishment process is not automatic yet. So human needs to be involved. One of the reasons is for the security maintenance. Okay, maintenance and updates. Bug fix. There are always bugs, right? For example, we already learned when we have a variable, then there's a question mark and exclamation mark. Depending upon the question mark and exclamation mark, then let's say if you put the exclamation mark, then the value should be explicitly available. But if your app still waits for the return from remote cloud, so cloud services, but your remote cloud services is unavailable, then your app cannot move forward. Your app maybe hung somehow, so you have to restart your phone devices, right? Because your touch not identified.
The other day, my touch or my clock would mimic, it would say 7:20, but on top of it would say 12 something. So I had
Right,
to restart.
all stopped at some points. There are only
It happened after this recent update that.
right. But thank God there is one last thing that we can do is to restart. Right. If there is no such things, then it is really headache. That reminds me of like many years ago. I think about 20 years ago when I was in class, I teaching, for example, I think it was also coding class. And then I have a cartoon. So I showed that cartoon on the screen. It's not really on the screen like this, but overhead project, one cartoon. So on computer, if you have any issue, then the last thing that you could do is to reboot. Completely power off and supply the power. Then you will get back to the previous stage. The cartoon was, at that time, I think he's smart. He ran a car stopped. And then he called the technician, and technician came. And what he said was, reboot your car. So everybody laughed at it because there's no reboot on a car, right? At that time, that is all gasoline engine car. Now, it's possible, right? For example, Tesla. If there is some issue, what should we do? Reboot the Tesla car, because everything is a computer. It's not like mechanics come and fix bolt and nuts, but only the reboot. If you reboot electric vehicles, then you can restart, because everything can be back to the previous stage. Anyway, bug fix. Continually monitor your feedback. So user feedback is very, very important, right? Crash reports, error logs that identifies so that you can fix the bugs and also you can improve. Performance enhancement. Analyze app performance matrix. So you need to set up some matrix, so which one that you need to look at for your performance improvement. And optimize the areas that you may be causing slow loading time, high resource usages, poor responsiveness. Not only that, to get to your expected result, how many times that you need to touch the screen? The fewer times of touch screen to get the result screen, then that will be better than the other way, right? There's a user experience. Not only user interface, but user experience. Comparability updates. Stay up to date with the new iOS versions. For app itself, it has its own version, but your mobile application should run on a specific operating systems, in our case, iOS. So iOS also updates. So there is a compatibility issues in that case. Your iOS, if your iOS is a little behind, or if your iOS is far ahead, then your app, then there may be some issues. So your app released around the time that your app updated and released, when they develop that version, they stick to, at that point, that specific iOS versions. But suddenly, around the time they release their new versions of the app, the device operating systems dramatically upgraded, then there may be some compatibility issues, right? So you need to be very carefully developed. Security updates. Stay vigilant about potential security vulnerabilities. So, library, framework, dependencies of your software needs to be carefully considered for your app maintenance. Feature enhancement. So your app provides a few features, so that could be enhanced along with the surrounding technologies advancement. Like this time, AI functionalities improves a lot. Then some portion of your app, some features of your app accordingly improves. Accordingly, adapt the new the features fully available surrounding your device. So optimization that align with your needs and expectations. UI and UX refinement. Continually refine your user interface and user expectations of your app based on user feedback and involving design trends. Enhance usability, streamline workflows, improve virtual aesthetic to keep users engaged and satisfied. Localization, internationalization, supporting additional language and regions. App Store optimizations. Regularly review and optimize your App Store listing. Update app screenshots, descriptions, keywords, and promotional assets to improve discoverability and conversion rates on the app stores. Push notification and app messagings. Utilize push notifications. There are two capabilities available, right? Push and pull. So between two players, maybe your app as a one player and maybe cloud server that is another player. Between that, or your app and some of the devices monitored and controlled by your app. For example, your home surveillance cameras, or maybe some of the devices that are running on your home. Then that is one play. Yeah, there's another player between with your iPhones. So one side may be provider, the other side may be consumer. Sometimes your iPhone apps could be a provider, or some other times it could be a consumer. So between producer and consumer, there may be a push and pull mechanisms available. So consumer wants to pull the services from the provider, or provider push the service to the consumer. Both two capabilities available. So for your project, you can also enable one or both. Then that is really good practice. And then analytics and the performance monitoring. So you need to have some of your user groups and get some feedback from them. User support and feedback, compliance and legal updates. Oh, this is something that stay updated with the changes in privacy regulations. Maybe that is, if that is a corporate app, then within that corporate, or maybe within a country, or maybe internationally. So all different level of the compliance issues available. For data protections, and protection of your identifications. The more the technology is advanced, the more the role your iPhone can play, because your iPhone is not only for communication, but your iPhone is your you yourself, maybe more important than you, physically. Mm-hmm. Somebody do not trust you, but somebody trusts your phone. Maybe so, right? When you buy robots, humanoid robots, maybe next year, humanoid robots identify you only by your smartphones. And also, therefore, phone number is very, very important. I do not know. All of a sudden, carelessly, I have my phone number. But now, I cannot change my phone numbers at all, right? If I change it, oh my gosh. How many things that I need to update? I do not know how. Right. Almost impossible.
It's the same with like an email address. That's a little easier.
Email also, same thing. Yeah. And both together, phone number and email. Phone number and email, they are identical.
Yeah, especially iCloud.
Right. Marketing and user acquisitions, App Store optimization. I've never done anything about App Store optimizations or anything. I didn't sell any apps. But while I'm teaching app development for the past 10 years, not recent years, but earlier, I was thinking of, I should sell this or sell the other. But I didn't do that. About maybe 10 years ago, I developed a mathematics app. So for maybe it is good for from kindergarten to maybe second grade or third grade. Only the arithmetic computations. So adding two numbers or subtracting numbers, multiplications or divisions over the phones, and then at that time, depending upon the user achievement, for example, students doing this respond to this very accurately, very timely, then automatically I can increase the level of difficulties. So it is very, if it is an arithmetic computation, then possible, right? Yeah. For example, I can give an answer, 2 plus 3, then quick answer. So 1 digit and 1 digit, okay. Always perfectly well. Then I can do 2 digit and 1 digit. If that passed, 2 digit and 2 digit, 3 digit and 2 digit, and things like that. I can improve. No, I can increase the level of difficulty levels. Very, in mathematics, it's very clear, right? Right. So and also I can develop it algorithmically, right? I can pick any two numbers, so a random number, choose only the grading mechanisms that I spend more time, right? In what way I can evaluate the user. And also the other one is at the back end, at the cloud server, I manage the students. So these students passed that level, and they're now working on these levels. And then all the questions are directly from the server, not local. And therefore, I can compare these students and the other students remotely. So I provided also the teacher's app. So teacher may be able to see all the students that she or he wants to teach. The type of things that I developed, I think many years ago. Some of the mathematics, the faculty member said, "Oh, this is good. Why don't you sell it?" So I said, "Oh, let me improve this more and more." But I'll never go back to that app development at that time. But I still do not know if it is really useful. That type of things. So if you, thing is this, if you, as you do develop, for example, in this class, the project, if you find some good things, don't stop. You need to find out your partners. So collaborate. The more people involved in, then you can make your app more reliable and then more marketable. You can start individually, but if you stay as a solo developer continually, then your app may not be marketable at all. So you have to find out partners to improve your solo app development outcomes. So they're all related. App Store optimization, paid advertising, influence marketing, public relations, all those things. I think, Yeah, you need to find out somebody who is good at some of this. Oh, marketing uses. I should not have this page. Okay, so I have here, so we looked at this already. And the content marketing, app review, sites and directories, social media marketing, app store feature and promotions. Yeah, you can read that and you can understand maybe better than me. Referral programs, incentives, cross promotion and partnership, user engagement and retention strategy, analyzing metrics and iterating. Now, I want you to read this from 1 to 12 about marketing and user acquisitions. I'll give you maybe a couple of minutes. So if you see any comments from there, and we can look at, we can share more. So now your turn. Samrat, are you there still? I'm not sure. He said he's. Oh, good. If you, Samrat, if you have something to share, you can give us a chat. Let's see here. You already gave us one chat. You can write something more if you want about this marketing and acquisitions, because these are more open questions, and you and I are the same in understanding. Let me share one with you before you do. When I try to develop an application, an iPhone, Mac, mobile application for some small domain. I always, when I ask my friends, they always says, why do you think some people wants to install your app on their smartphones? Many people really hesitate to install if it's not really needed. But that is true, that is a reasonable comment. So unless you have some promotions and incentives, they don't really install your app. In part because they don't trust your app. They do not know internally, not only the trustworthiness, but also the usefulness. Is really needed. Do I need to keep that app longer and longer? Will I, even if I install it and use it, and immediately, if I don't use it, if I don't expect to keep it, then I immediately remove it. Like a hotel, if you go to a hotel, then there's a hotel electronic keys may be downloaded on your smartphones. So while you are in that hotel, you can keep that app. But after that, you do not need. So you better to delete it. So people may keep the app once it is downloaded, only if there is some incentives, if there is some promotions. So there is some points that they can build. If I use one hotel, if they give me some points, then I may be able to keep it. If I expect to use the same hotel again and again, then I can increase the points eventually from that points. So I can buy a hotel by my points built. That type of things is maybe needed, right? If it is a hotel, then maybe that is a promotion. But in another mobile apps, what kind of promotions or incentives are available? I do not know, right? For example, the arithmetic computation app for kindergarten to the second grade in elementary students. Will they install my? Why they keep it? Is there some incentives? Although I develop it, I may not sell it. Not really sell by their payment, but only distributions. How many people made once mine if I don't give them any? If I don't raise revenue, then how come I give them money back? So all those things. Comments? Do you have some apps that you once downloaded but immediately deleted? So many?
I feel like that happens. Either I download it and it just sits there and just takes up space and then I just delete it, or that's also a case too. So
So the finding application domain is one of the significant factor that you can keep your app development, right? Recent days, if you want to park your car in the city, for example, then there is I think 3 or 4 famous popular parking app, right?
Oh, to find, yeah.
Yeah, find yeah, even if I pay, the parking price is cheaper if I use that app rather than drive-in.
Driving.
So I keep that app, right? That type of things is needed. Others, maybe some music app because I like listen to music. Okay. Do you have any app? Although they do not give you the reward, monetary related promotions, but still you keep that app. Do you have any such things on your
Would they
smartphone?
give, like a monetary reward or something?
Without, yeah,
Without?
yeah.
I think so. Probably.
Which one did? Look at your phones if you have apps. Let me see if I have. Yeah, the weather I like.
Oh, well, that, yeah. Like that.
Some news app I do. Podcast app I do.
Oh, yeah.
YouTube app
Mhm.
I have.
I like shopping apps.
Oh, you have shopping apps?
Pass.
I do not have.
Workouts. Like if I go to like a workout, I know some places have like their different types of apps. Like Orange Theory Fitness, they have different apps for their classes.
Oh, you have that? No, I don't. I do not exercise.
Yeah, there's different apps that.
I have a couple of hotel apps.
Yeah, like Hilton, Marriott.
Yeah.
I have, like JetBlue, American Airlines.
Yeah, I have a JetBlue
Mm-hmm.
and Delta.
Uber, Waze.
I have Uber.
Parking apps, so Park NYC.
Mhm.
Those apps. I
Park
have.
NYC.
The Metro North for the train.
Oh yeah, Metro North. That is a must, right?
Yeah.
I need to buy tickets. Right, Metro North. Yeah, that is a must.
WhatsApp.
WhatsApp. Yeah, I have that.
There's a bunch of apps.
Only that. Yeah, I do not. Yeah, between you and me, yeah, the commonality is that, yeah, if those are apps on your phone and also my phone, then it could be everybody's,
A lot of
right?
people have the same type of app.
So there are so many other apps also available, but not on your phone,
There's a lot of
not on my phone either. So success of the apps deployment is very, very limited. I don't have any others. I have a MTA train, MTA subway, and MTA train.
Oh, the Omni.
Huh?
The Omni app, that one? Or, oh, like the train. Like
MTA,
Metro North,
MTA, yeah, Metro North, yeah, MTA. Not only Metro North, this app can work for Long Island,
Okay, yeah.
LIL,
Oh, yeah, all the
LIR.
different railroads.
Right, right.
Mhm.
I do not usually download the banking
Like banking
apps.
apps,
Yeah,
yeah.
I do. Do you or I do
I
not?
have my banking app because I do Zelle through it. I don't have the actual Zelle app.
I used that a long time ago, but I decided not to install it
Okay.
at that time because if I lose my phone, then I lose my bankings. So since then, I didn't installed.
Okay.
Only if I need to do, then I sit down on my
But I mean,
laptop.
your phone, everything is like
Not
live.
while I'm working,
Yeah.
walking down the streets and
just
sending
having
this
those
money
stuff,
to.
definitely not.
I don't do that for security and while I'm doing walking down the streets on my cell phones,
Yeah.
then little bit highly likely chance of a mistake
For sure.
because my fingertip may point a little different
A
ones.
little differently, yeah.
Right. So I usually sit down on my desk and using my the mouse, click accurately. Okay, so let's move. Analyzing metrics. So download and install is the measure the number of app downloads and install. I think if you commercialize it, then there may be this kind of things available. Yes, for matrix that you can analyze. So you may be able to see who is the active users, some of the session length. All those things may be provided from App Store or Google. Yeah. But I haven't had any experience because I didn't sell my app at all so far. But this is all possible. Session length and frequency, retention rate, churn rate. So churn rate represents the percentage of users who stop using your. This is some of the discernment. So stop using versus not stop. Conversion rate. If your app involves conversions, track the conversion rate to measure the effectiveness of your app conversions funnels. In-app purchase, the purchase and revenues. Crash report and stabilities. App Store conversion rate, user feedback and rating, user acquisition channels. So evaluate the effectiveness and efficiency of different user acquisition channels. Measure metrics such as cost per install, click-through rate. Those metrics are meaningful. Conversion rate for each channel to optimize your marketing spend and identify the most effective acquisition sources. Okay, so finally, this is my final. This is a final slide, I guess. So let's look at this. 6 analysis. So in 2025, mobile industry trends. So that could be something about 5G, open APIs, eSIMs adoptions, AI, and more. So let's look at this.
And with that, I think we will kick it off. So thank you all for joining us. My name is Peter Jarek. I am the head of GSMA Intelligence. If you've registered, you probably got an email from me yesterday. Thank you very much for joining. We're really grateful to see such a good set of people joining us today for this, our GSMA Intelligence 2025 wrap-up webinar. I know the official title is much longer, but what we want to do here is really take a quick look back at what happened over the last year and what we think that means for what's going to happen going forward. If you are a GSMA Intelligence subscriber, thank you very much. You probably know that over the course of this last year, we put out a lot of research. You might not know, it totals around 250 pieces of research and analysis. Now some of those will be reactions to news, right? That there's a new iPhone, or you've got, for example, a huge spectrum change of ownership. Some of the pieces of research are major market forecasts, landscape reports, benchmarks. At the base of all those, though, industry dynamics are always the context, right? We're trying to put what's taking place in the industry into context, and whatever's happened across the course of the year really sets the stage for that. And that's why I'm excited that we could take some time today. It's the first time we've done this, but thought it was about time that we did is sit back, take a look at what happened. We know this is the time of the year. There's a lot of predictions pieces. We're in the run-up to the end of the year, so everyone's gonna try and tell you what's gonna happen next year. But I think it's particularly important that we preface any of that prediction work with a look back to set the context. And so I'm happy to have my best and brightest here. We're going to really make this very simple. I'm going to ask everyone to choose one piece of news or a major industry event from the last year they think shaped the year, was particularly important, and then prediction going forward. So with me, I have today, I've got Matt Ege. Matt heads up our forecasting and modeling team. I've got Tim Hatt. Tim heads up our custom consulting and commercial content team. Pablo Jacopino, and you probably know a lot of these folks if you're reading our research or you've seen us out there, but for those of you who don't, Pablo heads up our syndicated, our subscription content. Pau Castells, based in Barcelona, heads up our economist team, and Radhika, she heads up our team looking at trend tracking and data acquisition. So, I've got all the folks here who I'm going to assume have all the answers, because if they don't, we're still setting bonuses for the end of the year. So I really hope they have all the answers, because it's that time of the year. We want Christmas presents for everyone. Matt, we're going to start with you. I've given you enough of a context here, enough of a preface. If you don't have your 2025 news item picked or event, too late. So looking back at 2025, what's the piece of news that you think really shaped the year?
Thanks for the introduction, Peter. So for me, the biggest development, or at least the most exciting one, has been the progress on 3GPP Release 20.
I mean, that seems pretty technical. I think a lot of people might, it's not headline news. Why? What's the...
Well, to be completely honest, it gives me a chance to talk about 6G, because this is the point where we really move from talking about 6G as an idea to actually defining what it will be. So this really starts the early technical studies for 6G. So things like integrated sensing, things like the next generation of satellite terrestrial integration. It's really the first step in turning the 6G vision into a technical reality.
I mean, operators seem to be of two minds towards 6G, right? A lot of them don't want to talk about it because they don't want to invest more. A lot of them are already talking about it. Why do you want to talk about 6G?
Well, even though it does feel like we're still getting to grips with 5G, and I think a lot of operators would agree with that, I'd agree with you, these shifts do creep up on us. Traffic continues to rise sharply, new device categories are going to emerge, and networks needs to be far more automated and energy efficient than they are today. So just on the traffic, we recently updated our traffic forecast this year. We found that by 2035, mobile data traffic would have quadrupled. So within that, video is going to be the dominant driver. And it's fair to say that this may eventually slow because of basic limits. So if you think about the size of the screen, the number of hours in a day, it may eventually slow down, but for now it's still growing. We're also seeing really rapid growth in FWA, particularly 5G FWA, and social media as well continues to be a major factor. But going beyond capacity though, there's another pattern worth highlighting. The 2Gs are always the most exciting Gs. So, or the even Gs, sorry, the most exciting Gs. So with 2G, we got mainstream mobile use, so now everybody's got a mobile phone. When we got to 3G, to be honest, it's a bit meh. It was there, but not many people would say it really changed their lives. When we got to 4G though, it absolutely did change people's lives. It was the first time that we really got a modern mobile broadband network over your mobile phone. And then with 5G, it came with a lot of promise, but whether it's delivered on that promise is probably open to debate. I mean, a big reason for that is maybe because 5G launched as a non-standalone network, and we didn't really get to see the full benefits of a 5G core from the start. So, looking at 6G, this would be where we start to see that new step change. And we've just recently updated our forecast. We're expecting to see the first meaningful launches in around about 2030. Obviously, coverage is still going to be pretty limited by that point, but by 2035, we should see 6G accounting for around about 25% of global mobile connections.
This is where I have to admit I was remiss in the beginning by saying people tuned in. You'll note that there's two functions: there's a chat and a Q&A. If you are ready and really you're excited and you want to tell Matt how he's wrong and data traffic's not going to grow and there's no way because it's going to plateau and 6G is silly, that's what you use the chat for. If you have questions and you want to dig in more to it, that's what the Q&A is for. We'll have some predictions. We'll have time for predictions later as well. So you can grill Matt. You can grill Matt on that because we need to move on, and we're going to move on to Tim. Tim, what's your event of the year?
Well, the concept of satellite telco convergence has been a big theme this whole year and even last year. And so my event is the Starlink acquisition of the EchoStar spectrum, which came to bear in the September timeframe. And I think it's super significant for a number of reasons, both in terms of showing its intent, but also the direction of travel as to where things go for spectrum and ultimately the service availability for satellite.
So does it mean that we're going to be looking at direct-to-consumer sales from Starlink in every single market around the world and the end of terrestrial networks by 2040, as I've seen some people on LinkedIn posit?
Well, sadly, I don't think we're going to see those types of scenarios that may make a lot of headlines come to bear. But I think what it does show is there's clear intent. Starlink already controls about 90% of the satellite orbital capacity. It shows that direct-to-device is a formidable trend right now, and we know that through the fact that operators representing almost 70% of market share have at least one satellite partnership with companies like Starlink, but also others. And I think in terms of Starlink specifically, yes, it does open up the possibility for direct-to-consumer services. That will depend on a lot of capacity availability, which we think is probably more conservative than others. But ultimately, it's a sign of the times, and it shows the value of MSS spectrum in particular, which is a very important enabler for satellite communications scaling.
Yeah, I remember it was just a few years ago when the debates between folks that were talking about spectrum reuse versus MSS were big debates. I think we're seeing how that plays out now, which is it's good to see how the industry's evolving and we're learning more and more. Pablo, you are next. Pablo, what when you look back at 2025, what was the thing that you think mattered most?
Sure, I'm going to focus on consumer connectivity, specifically eSIM. In the last few months, we saw a couple of very important milestones for the mobile industry. Apple went eSIM only globally. Previously, it was eSIM only in the US market. And then the other important milestone, China. The Chinese operators launched a commercial eSIM service for smartphones.
So yeah, and it was interesting. I think some of us were in China right around that time, and I think at the first launch of the iPhone, it wasn't quite available. You go into stores and you couldn't actually find the cool new iPhone because it was eSIM only, and it wasn't quite available. And that changed pretty quick. I mean, what do you think? So when you think about China and eSIM, we've been talking about it for a while, right? I think for a few years we've been talking about how it could change the market. There were predictions about when that would take place and move beyond wearables. Do you think is that the big angle here, really, the China angle?
I agree. China launching a SIM service for smartphones is super important globally for a couple of reasons. The first one is obviously China is a big market, is a big mobile market, so it will help drive adoption of consumer SIM. The second reason is about OEMs. As we know, many of the top OEMs in the world are Chinese vendors, the likes of Xiaomi, Oppo, Huawei, Vivo. What does it mean? It means that if these vendors see that the consumers in China will react quickly to eSIM, adopting eSIM, these vendors will start pushing eSIM globally, which means introducing more eSIM devices with more consumer devices with eSIM technology. And why is this important globally? Because it will help drive availability of eSIM technology for the low-end market, people who typically buy devices below $200 or $300. So super important to drive finally adoption of eSIM globally.
We can probably get to this in the second part when we talk about predictions for the next year. But there's probably a good knock-on effect for the success of travel eSIM businesses as well, if we expect to see the market take off. But let's save that, because I can tell Pao is really excited to talk about his event of the year. Pao, what was the big thing for you?
Yeah, thank you, Peter. So for me, one of the news of the year was a recent announcement just a couple of weeks ago by RSPG, that stands for the Radio Spectrum Policy Group. It's a body that advises European countries on spectrum policy. And what RSPG announced was an important recommendation that the upper part of the 6 GHz band should be allocated to mobile. That's my news, and I think it has far-reaching implications.
I mean, it's interesting because it feels like we've been talking about 6 GHz for IMT use for several years. So what changed, or why now, or how does this really change anything?
Yeah, I'd say it's been probably about three plus years of intense discussions globally as to whether the upper 6 GHz band should be allocated to mobile versus unlicensed use, which essentially is Wi-Fi. And actually, this announcement is quite important because it confirms that the upper 6 GHz band will be pretty much everywhere in the world used by mobile for 5G extensions for 6G, with, I guess, the sole exception of the US.
I would say everywhere in the world.
I stopped there because you might have something to say there.
No, I was going to say everywhere in the world isn't quite right. There's some holdups, right?
Yes, yeah. So let's see what happens in the US in the long term. That's something that we'll obviously keep an eye on. I think, and also linking back to Matt's key news about traffic, there's another implication of this announcement, which is that it makes it very clear that an independent body, after careful analysis, has concluded that data traffic growth for mobile is not going to be flat anytime soon, and a lot more capacity will be needed in the near future. And that's consistent with our own analysis. It's also consistent with some of the news that we are seeing, say recently, Ofcom released the UK numbers for this year on mobile traffic growth. And what they show is 20% growth rate, so that's a lot less than we used to see 2 years ago or 4 years ago. But if you actually look at it in absolute terms, the sheer amount of growth this year in the UK, it's the historical record. So there has never been as much traffic being added to the UK networks as it happened this year. Right? So it points to this question that, and you mentioned that earlier, we've seen some observers out there seeing these declining growth rates and predicting the end of telecom's history as a result. Reality is that's unlikely to happen anytime soon.
And I think it's an important reminder, actually. I just came off of a bit of a holiday last week, and I spent some of that time reading one of those observers' 6G manifestos. I was the only one at the pool reading a 6G manifesto that talked about the death of telecom, I assume. And whether or not you agree with those views, these are the things that operators, these are the things that vendors, that everyone are focused on, right? Or they're trying to grapple with and understand. So it's important as we think about what is coming next. So before I get to the last of the big brains, I just want to, I've seen some comments come in there. If you have questions, if you can't see the Q&A button, feel free to use the chat. We can move questions in the Q&A over to or you can move the comments, any questions in chat over to Q&A, and that'll be the best way. So, but please get in any questions if you can. Radhika, last but definitely not least, what was your big news from the last year?
I'm not sure how good it is to go towards the end. A lot of ground has already been covered by my friends, but if I have to talk about one big news item from 2025, I think 2025 was the year when I finally broke on consolidation in UK, and obviously the event that triggered it was the Vodafone and Three merger, making UK a 3-player market from 4-player originally. So that was the big news for me.
I mean, but this clearly, if we think about this beyond any one market, it's not just an isolated trend, right? Where we're seeing across the globe a number of different. I mean, why is that particularly important? Why? I mean, I think we as an industry and maybe inside, this room, we know why consolidation, why scale is important. But why are we so focused on it, right? As an industry, what's the preoccupation with scale?
So I'll cover two things here, why this event is important and why consolidation is important. This particular event is important because Europe historically had been very particular about not approving such mergers that shrinks a market from 4-player to 3-player for the competition reasons. Even in UK back in 2016, 3 and O2 attempted to merge, which was not approved by the European Commission on competition reasons only. So now finally getting that sort of approval from regulator in the UK set as a precedent. And what is also very interesting in this particular merger is generally when we have seen 2 players merging and becoming a bigger player in the market, like in this case they finally become the largest player in the market after merging together. So it comes with some sort of divestment obligation that you have to surrender a part of your spectrum or some sort of arm, could be your tower arm, could be your MVNO business, some sort of divestment related obligations it comes with. But in this particular case, it was more of how industry is calling it as behavioral remedies, wherein the merged entity has legal binding obligations on the investment side. They will be investing £11 billion over the course of next 10 years with £1 billion in the immediate first year after merger. Similarly, together they have to cover 99% of the UK population with 5G standalone network. So it is more of behavioral remedies, also focusing on how regulators are finally paying attention to the investment requirements in the country versus focusing too much on whether or not this merger actually makes it a 3-player market or 4-player. And this was also reflected in the fact that EC finally made a note of it, saying that maybe actually some degree of consolidation is good, and they launched a consultation to finally review the merger guidelines across EU. If that goes ahead, it could actually pave the way for consolidation in many more European markets. So that's why this particular merger was kind of a landmark event. And as you already noted, consolidation is important because you need to unlock that sort of investment to scale up finally, especially with 5G and 6G. Capex intensive technologies these are, and not every single telecom operator can scale up their businesses with the kind of investment they have. So it is important for both survivability and scalability.
Perfect. So want to remind everyone, please continue adding in your questions. We've got some good questions already come in. We're going to try and save them at the end unless we can work them into a conversation. And so with that, I'm going to switch things around to keep you all on your toes. I'm not going to go in the same order. I'm not going to make Radhika speak for 5 minutes in a row and go back to her. But let's go over to Pablo. Pablo, what's your prediction for 2026?
Okay, so I've got many, but you mentioned the Travel eSIM, so probably I'll make a prediction on Travel eSIM. As we know, Travel eSIM has been a very successful use case for eSIM. We track the space, we look at adoption of 45% year-on-year growth in the number of people using Travel eSIM offerings. It's becoming very competitive, with a growing number of players offering the service, a growing number of wholesale platforms, growing consumer interest. So my prediction is that in 2026, up to 5 non-telco companies will launch a Travel eSIM service. We have already seen a few, LATAM Airlines or Revolut, fintech company. So I expect more non-telco companies to launch the service. And if you ask me, okay, what's the biggest candidate? I'm not going to mention any specific names, but I think fintech as an industry is probably the most adjacent for this type of Travel eSIM service.
And then maybe, I think, we sort of take for granted, given the people who might be tuning in, but, can you just sort of take 30 seconds to talk about the benefits of eSIM? Who benefits? The question here is coming in as sort of how does the smartphone trend translate to other cellular-enabled products? So how do we think of eSIM? What's the key driver, and how do we think about it for smartphones or other devices?
So for Travel eSIM, the most important benefit is that silent roamers, so people who in the past used to travel abroad using Wi-Fi connectivity only. So people not using cellular connectivity, we call them silent roamers. So eSIM has been able to help silent roamers use cellular connectivity abroad for a couple of reasons. Simplicity of use. Using a Travel eSIM service is simple if you have an eSIM device, but also competitive pricing. It's fair to say that obviously pricing is also a factor. To the question about eSIM beyond the smartphones, what we see is that fixed wireless is emerging as a good use case in countries where fixed wireless will have a reasonable market share. Wearables, and then obviously the whole IoT space with the new specifications released by the GSMA, SGB32. Really, we hope to see adoption of eSIM beyond automotive. Things like utilities, logistics, manufacturing. So hopefully 2026 will show really good momentum on consumer eSIM and IoT eSIM.
Cool. Tim, just shifting things around, what's your big bet for 2026?
Yeah, and switching topics, my prediction relates to AI, and specifically it's that 25% of telco operators will have launched a sovereign AI service by the end of 2026. And I think that links into the wider deployment of AI across the operating portfolio, but also to specific compliance requirements that governments have, and therefore creates a unique business opportunity for the mobile operators.
The number's pretty small right now, right?
The number is small. It's only a handful, but you've got to take it in the context that everybody is deploying AI to a greater or lesser extent. What we see is that most of the deployments, around half, have focused on kind of easy win solutions in customer care and automation. But that's starting to change now more towards a revenue motivation. And with sovereign AI, just for our audience, what that means is basically to retain the data in the country that it is generated in. And governments require that for security reasons. The reason that I'm making this prediction is that operators are very uniquely placed to satisfy that requirement, being national presence groups running critical infrastructure, but also that there is a clear business synergy in pairing those up with what are called AI factories now, essentially a fancy term for running a lot of AI-driven services out of specialized data centers that operators either own direct or partner with other companies on. And so I think this is going to be a kind of key marrying up of a compliance and regulatory requirement with a business opportunity.
It's a good take. I'll say we've got a number of questions coming in, also on AI, but from a bit of a different angle, asking about the Nokia, NVIDIA. I think some people are talking about it as a partnership. I think it was also an investment. And whether or not that was one of the biggest pieces of news for the year. And I agree it probably was. I can say we're just, I just put some of the final touches not too long ago on our network transformation work, where we go and talk to operators, 100 operators around the world, talk to their network technology professionals and ask them about their plans and priorities for the year, one of which is exactly on this question, where they see the intersection of AI in the RAN. And it's interesting because, when you put forward sort of all the AI RAN Alliance use cases, including optimization, AI workloads running on RAN hardware, et cetera, they see optimization as by far the number one, right? This idea of running AI workloads on RAN software, running RAN software on off-the-shelf AI processors, still pretty low, right? So it doesn't mean it's not going to happen, but I think when we look at something like the NVIDIA, Nokia, and to be fair, it's an investment as well as a partnership. There's a couple things there, right? Many of you who've been in the industry a while may remember, I think it was MWC Los Angeles 2018, maybe 2019, when Ericsson got on stage with a much less rich Jensen Huang from NVIDIA to talk about the work that they were going to be doing on powering RAN workloads with AI. So this has been something that we've all seen coming for quite a few years, obviously accelerated. But we also have to recognize that it is an investment, and I think as we've all tracked in the last sort of year, it was obvious to I think a lot of us a year ago, but the mainstream press has really picked this up. I think a lot of folks are paying much more attention over the last 6 months. There's a lot of interesting financial wrangling going on in terms of suppliers investing in vendors, and I won't say it's circular because other folks have done that. But I think that we're seeing some of those tentacles. So definitely, I think it's part of a trend. It highlights how we're going to see this. And I think as part of this question, it definitely fits into what Tim is saying in terms of if we can run AI workloads distributed and encourage, if you haven't seen the work that we've done on distributed inferencing driven by the telco space and what they can do, please hit us up, check it out. Be glad to share that with you because there's huge use cases beyond latency, huge commercial opportunities for telcos. So I think this is all part of that trend. But whether or not we'll actually see a whole lot of RAN being powered by AI silicon next year, I think it's still pretty early. Anyways, next, Pao, your prediction for 2026.
Yeah, right. So what I would really like to see in 2026 is for Lionel Messi to come back to FC Barcelona for one last dance before he heads to the United States for
Wait,
the
we're
World
doing
Cup.
predictions. We're doing predictions, not wishes. These are
Yeah,
predictions,
but
not wishes.
But I'll go for something equally optimistic, but closer to telecoms, which is that next year we'll start seeing some signs for European mobile operators start growing again. That's my prediction. Bold, still optimistic, probably not as optimistic as the Lionel Messi one, but yeah, it's a fact.
What's driving your optimism there, or at least driving this as a prediction more than a hope?
Yeah, so there are some minuscule signs of ARPUs growing in the last couple of quarters. I think we've seen ARPUs in major European markets growing between 5, 10, 15%, which is a lot if you compare it to what we have seen in the previous 5, 10 years, where ARPUs have actually decreased by a significant amount. Now, for that to be something more than an anecdote, we'll need to see some things changing in Europe, right? And that's where the uncertainty lies. So first, we'll probably need to see some important changes in the regulatory agenda. There are some big decisions that policymakers in Europe have on their laps, including the Digital Networks Act, which needs to come out this in consultation form very soon. We also have reforms on the merger guidelines, which talk to one of the important challenges that European operators have been facing when it comes to a lack of sufficient scale, linking back to what Radhika was explaining, right? So that's important. The other thing that makes me think that potentially there is some growth in Europe, although it links to these conditions for investment improving, is around 5G standalone. So we're still seeing, we're starting to begin to see European networks to launch 5G standalone, still lagging significantly behind other markets. And that's clearly a potential, brings the potential to unlock some of the revenue growth opportunities from specialized services, both for enterprises as well as for end consumers.
I think, and of course, although it's less about growth and more about, let's say, financial sustainability, but hopefully if in the background we've got scale, which can maybe help with operational efficiencies, then obviously that's not going to help with growth, but obviously put everyone on a better footing, hopefully. That's at least the hope. I said I wasn't going to go in the same direction, but Radhika, we won't put you last again. So Radhika, what's your prediction?
Thank you, Peter. The obvious one, obviously following on from the big 2025 trend, is if the EC consultation merger reform goes ahead, we can see more consolidation in some markets like Germany, Italy maybe, and obviously the investment remedies can actually become a new template for merger. The investment remedy sort of thing. We have seen the same in the spectrum pricing frameworks, which is now changing. A lot of spectrum pricing is now dependent on that. But I think the interesting one is a lot of people probably do not know that GSM Intelligence maintains an NTN database where we keep an eye on all the telco satellite partnerships and activities. Building on our analysis from that, we expect 30 telco satellite partnerships to go live next year. We already have 39 live, and we expect 30 more to go live. And this is important because when we are talking about these partnerships or the EcoStar EcoStar and Starlink news that Tim talked about, we are talking about a different type of consolidation here. So consolidation is not just about mobile anymore. It's about integrating various network access technologies, and somewhere links to what Matt was also talking, that our networks actually needs to be future proof for 5G and beyond, which means a telco needs to have access to mobile, fiber, satellite, all forms of network, either through partnerships or various forms of consolidation. So consolidation will take various shape and forms also.
That's an interesting question. I mean, on the consolidation side of things, right? When we think about, and there was a question that came in for you earlier, Tim, on the earlier discussion, but I'd open up to both of you. You know, when we think about consolidation, and when I think about consolidation, I think of satellite. I think of the impending consolidation within the satellite space, because we know right now that there are a lot of different constellations, a lot of different companies. You said it yourself, Tim, right? Starlink obviously holds the major majority of the the satellites up there in the sky, but there's a lot of other companies that are maybe struggling for funding, hoping for funding, still in the early stages. We know that can't last very long. What does it look like other than Starlink? Who are the other folks that you see out there? How do you think that plays out over the course of the year?
Well, I mean, there's broadly two models of running a satellite operation. One is the Starlink model, which repurposes the spectrum of the mobile operators. So you have Starlink, you have AST Space, I think the questioner asked about, you have Link Global. And then in the other camp, you have MSS models, which is Viasat, Iridium, and all of the long-standing satellite companies that have been there. I think when you look at direct-to-device, specifically, or direct-to-cell, as it's often referred to, AST is a formidable competitor. They have a very strong technology portfolio and roster of telco partners. There are others in the mix. I know Viasat and again Iridium and obviously Globalstar with its Apple partnership. are also in the mix. I think the question in the long term is just sustainability given the capital investments entailed here. And I do think we will see consolidation among satellite groups over the next 3 to 4 years in light of that.
Matt, I gave you a big runway at the beginning to cram and come up with your 2025 news. I've given you even longer. So we expect the best, most accurate non-football related prediction for 2026 will be coming from you. What is your what's your expectation for next year?
Okay, well, I mean, if Powell